Grant, one last story from each of you. Whatever story you want from whatever time,
Oh,
whatever comes to mind.
anything come to mind?
No,
Well, Gramps can't remember anything from his childhood. I
Right.
think his earliest memories are something like 10 or 12 years old. You know,
Gramps, did you have a favorite, did you have a teddy bear or anything like that when you were a little kid? No, you didn't do teddy bears.
not that I know of.
I didn't either.
As I say, I've traveled through life very light.
Yeah, that's true.
I've felt no burdens. Oh, sure.
Well, we
you know,
were a little bit of a
there are
burden.
ups. There are ups and downs, and things occur. But to the extent they're tough, I figure that's just part of why we're around. We better deal with it. So mine's a kind of a passive
Passive.
approach to life.
Hold on, I got it. I disagree because I think of when Linda Courtright and I get together and we exchange dad and uncle stories.
Mhm.
That isn't what emerges at all.
Really?
Passive, absolutely not. She sees you as someone who stepped in and gave their family and herself strength where she couldn't feel it.
Oh,
Well,
well,
it
that,
wasn't any. The family had fallen apart, and she was left there with a mother who was dying, and
right.
and a world that wasn't really being very kind or helpful to her.
But to me, that's just doing what you should do if you're a sensate human being.
Well, of course, but that's we
And I
understand that.
consider myself that. I just don't go out of my way to bring things into view.
Right, but when they show up, you're there.
When they show up, I'll deal with them, thank you.
He had regular trips to the east, and I think every 2 or 3 weeks you could go to Washington or New York or Philadelphia
Yeah.
or something,
And
and
I'd
take
go-
an extra day or two and see Bonnie and play tennis with
Right.
Linda and
Hmm.
things like that.
Yeah, when I went to visit Linda in Maine last year, she told me all about you and how you helped her family, and she has a lot of really good memories to share about that. You were not. Am I supposed to be over there?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm making an
you
appearance?
should be on that too, right. Your voice has been there.
No, but when I went to visit her, I had no idea about a lot of the stuff you did for her and her family, and so she told me all about it. And you did not seem very passive. And when you say that's just what people do, that's what you do. That's very exceptional. That's not what everyone would have done. From how and
Well-
it shows a lot.
Well,
Good.
Gramps and Bonnie were very close.
Yeah.
They were just a year apart. They went through skating and partnership and all kinds of things together. And that was not just an ordinary, everyday brother-sister relationship either. That was special.
Hmm.
I knew that I was having to measure up, for instance, when I got invited by Bonnie to go
Yeah.
to Lake Placid. Oof.
You passed
That
it, okay.
test. Yeah, right. She was very caring and very interesting person. And how she married Thorpe, I don't know. He was sort of a disgusting character in a lot of ways, and she was the most meticulous, careful, lovely person. Well,
But he had such an agile mind,
that's what attracted her.
and
right?
that's what it's about, that relationship. It's the thing that kept us as roommates. He was a terrible roommate. God, he unkempt and messy. And
Never washed a dish, never did anything in the kitchen. I don't know how anybody put up with him.
I'd go around and clean up, and he'd have all these milk punch glasses. He'd have a glass of milk would be laced with booze, and he'd be out to lunch by 10 in the morning.
He's about
But we used to sit around, I, who had to graduate and be ready to lead a productive life,
it. Had three
we used to
roommates,
sit
none of them
around.
did.
And make crossword puzzles for each other. That was fun to sit down and just build a crossword puzzle. And you'd every so often have to deal with words like fish shit or something like that in it. You'd see an SH combination, and that told you that something was going wrong. But otherwise, it would be a traditional crossword puzzle with some stinger thrown in somewhere.
Well, he was interesting, but he was difficult. And the other guys they weren't as brilliant, but they were pretty sharp too. They did attend. He never even attended class.
Right.
That's
And,
so
uh,
annoying.
And then he'd pass the test.
I know.
But he'd pass it. Just unbelievable. He never finished. He never practiced. He didn't need
He
to.
never worked a day in his life. I don't think he ever earned a nickel.
Well, he had a sister who was a problem too.
He
had-
got that trust when he turned 21 and retired.
Well, and didn't she have, she had depression or something too? His sister.
Oh, yes, yeah, she had big time health problems.
Mental health, yeah.
Yeah, the two of them.
And their mother died of breast cancer when Thorpe was about 14, so I never could blame him completely. When Vonnie had this disease too, and it had been such a traumatic thing for him when his mother died, because she was a protection against a real authoritarian autocrat of a father. And
But she
then
had the
she's
money.
gone. Yeah. He made it too, though.
Yeah,
Wow.
he made plenty too.
So Grandma, a story for you, a closing story for Abby that you want to mention?
I can't think of mine. They're all thought
Put you
out.
on the spot.
I just, they
Yeah, they
pop
pop
out as
up,
you
yeah.
talk. What was, Becky was a thorn in my side. I was very organized because that was a security kind of thing for me. And Becky just marched in, helped herself to things in my room, and infuriated me. So that bookcase was in my bedroom, and all the books on it I put on a catalog, and she had to tell me when she was borrowing one. Well, that didn't work at all. She was not that kind of a kid. But she was a lot more normal than I was. I was sort of a goody-goody. I got nervous. I would have been like Amy. I would have been very nervous about any kind of adventurous thing. I had to ride horseback. I went to a camp. Oh, I hated camp. I went to a camp that was a very fancy camp. After 2 years of two other different camps, then my family sent me to this fancy camp called Moss Lake up near Lake Placid. And they had college coaches teaching us.
No.
And they had Russian riders teaching us horseback riding. And, it was supposed to be all so fancy. And I had to go in the water, and it was a cold water, and they just said, swim for the next hour. And you're supposed to go out, and no different strokes, just the crawl.
Ooh.
And I couldn't do the crawl that comfortably or easily, and I did like to do breaststroke a little. No. Well, a little of this, and I caught a cold, and pretty soon I really had a bad cold and had to go to the infirmary. And I wasn't that sick, but I hated it. And they knew I was malingering. So they weren't very nice about it. And then horseback riding, we had not only riding, but then you had to ride the way you would on a circus, or the way you would if you were going in a battle. You'd lie sideways along the side of the horse and hang on at one end and put your foot up somewhere to hang on and go trotting around the ring. As though, you know, as though the Indians were out to shoot you and you had to protect yourself. I don't know why this was the Russians. And then I had, we had a drama teacher who taught drama somewhere. And I had a part, I had a part in a play, Riders to the Sea, and I was the old woman in that, and that was kind of fun to do. And then we had a game that they started where you're supposed to start a story, and then everybody pick up and go around. And it got around and nobody knew what to do with the story. It wandered all over the place. And so I finished it off again. I started it and I finished it. And they asked me, did you have in mind anything, how it was going to end when you started? And I said, yeah, sort of. I had an idea that they gave us a picture, 3 roses in a black pool, and then you could go from there. Well, you know, you can make up things easily, fairy tale type stories. Well, I got the cup. And the head of the camp, his wife was busy having a baby that summer, so she paid no attention. He was an autocrat. He was one of these guys who liked to run everything. And he said, as he had made this announcement, that I had been a very poor camper, and I had not done very well at all, but it was his coaches that insisted that I get the cup. And he was sorry, he didn't believe it was the right thing, but he was going to give it to me because they insisted. And I kept thinking afterwards, I wish I'd just told him to keep it. I was so angry and so upset. Well, I brought the cup home, and I wanted nothing to do with it, and it went back to the camp, and my parents wanted me to go back. I said, no way, don't you dare send me back to that camp. It was horrible. They gave you demerits if you didn't get from the riding rings way up there to the swimming hole in your suit in the time that was given, which was about 1 to 5 minutes maybe. And you had to run all the way to do it. And then when you got there, you had to plunge into cold water all out of breath. I just thought it was a terrible place and all wrong. And what they did at this dinner, which is when they gave me that cup so reluctantly, was to go down a list of people who had been sort of good campers, and then better and better and better. And then the camper of the year was a paragon, and everybody else was dirt, almost. And I was the lowest of them all. And to judge everybody that way, and then and do it all on perceptions of how that person felt or what they were like, was just unbelievable to me. That was something I learned that was a terrible thing to do to kids. Just terrible.
It's awful.
Nasty.
Camp's supposed to be about just doing whatever you want.
I think it's
Oh,
time to
no.
go.
Yes.
All right, well,
Good.
okay.
Yay!